Hi, today I'll show you how to use the LaunchMap service. It's a service where you can turn your business idea into a full business plan in just a few minutes. No more need to buy consultations from some infobloggers, businessmen, coaches, and so on. If you have no experience, LaunchMap can now guide you from scratch to a full step-by-step plan. And now I'll show you how. Just enter your idea. I just entered a brand idea here and click Validate Idea. Next, a full plan concept is generated, meaning we wrote just a brief idea, but got a fairly large and detailed plan, which will then convert into a business plan consisting of a huge number of components. But first, we are asked about our preferences, about how we want to run the business, and first is our launch geography. Let's say we'll be launching into the entire United States market. Next, we want to, say, only raise money from angel investors, or for example, do it all with our own money. But let's assume we're open to all possible ways of attracting investment. But we want to do it all as solo founders because it's trendy, and we want to reach the break-even point as quickly as possible. In 3 months, we plan to get the first profit, but it's only our first time starting an enterprise. And then we get a list of what we need to generate. And we'll start, of course, with market research, because that's where work on every business idea begins, whether it's an online startup or opening a coffee shop, starting some service, and so on. Our market research is generated quite quickly. As we can see, it consists of several points, but they all require different amounts of time to complete. Actually, everything is already done. As we can see, some justifications have appeared, some assumptions, different approaches to market assessment, different approaches, different things we need to know before we want to start a business. We need to study all this, and it would all cost several $1,000s from a consultancy. But here we get it for the price of just a coffee. Next, we just take turns generating the product plan, the marketing plan. And if we want to raise investment, we can also generate an investment plan to interact more effectively with investors. But let's start specifically with the product plan, because so many people who want to start a business don't even know the initial steps that could help them get started. As we can see, you can start this business with if you have $1,500, that's very good. Since our team consists of one person, we don't need to pay any salaries. And then we see a full stack of what we need to do. For example, we open up what's needed for the MVP, what's needed for, say, infrastructure, what's needed for scaling, and so on. Let's take a look at marketing because it's always the most interesting part of a business and the hardest part for a beginning entrepreneur who has never promoted their product before. Because in the age of artificial intelligence, making your product is one part of the task, but the second big part of the task is promoting your product. There's more and more content on the internet, which means we have to compete with a large number of various other brands and even those in other niches, simply because marketing tools are limited. And as we can see, here we already have our goals, our promotion channels, and various hypotheses, various channels for attracting traffic. Everything here is detailed down to the smallest things. All of this will help us create a full, complete brand without worrying about whether we're doing something right or wrong. And now let's generate tasks based on the plans we've made. Because it's one thing to learn the strategy, to know which direction to move in, but it's another to understand which tasks, in what order, in what sequence, and how best to do them. Now I'll show you how this is done in just a few minutes. When I launched my very first startup, the planning process actually took a whole 2 months because I was completely inexperienced. I had to read a lot of material, watch a lot of videos, and it was honestly very exhausting. And now we can get a huge number of generated tasks, all broken down by stages. Each can be sorted, for example, only marketing tasks or only product tasks. But let's take a look. Opening each task, we see an understanding of how to consider a task complete, best practices, and tips. And we can also take a task into work right away and use LaunchMap as a task tracker for our project. Because we'll always have all the context at hand, we won't need to look at dozens of platforms at the same time. That's basically it. We can also export all of this to send it to our teammate, our business partner, and then continue working with it. I hope that your business will be successful. Good luck to everyone. Bye, everyone.